The betrayal of trust, the Universal Concordat, had stood for nearly 2 centuries. Born from the ashes of the Great Stellar War, it represented the pinnacle of interspecies diplomacy, a framework built not on military might, but on mutual respect and cooperation. 17 sentient species had signed their names to its charter, pledging to resolve conflicts through dialogue rather than destruction. Among them, humanity stood as one of the youngest signatories, having joined the galactic community a mere 50 years before the treaty's ratification. The Galactic Council, housed within the magnificent celestial spire, a structure of impossible crystalline architecture suspended in orbit around the neutral world of Eos, served as the beating heart of this cosmic peace. Within its luminous chambers, representatives from across the stars gathered to maintain the delicate balance they had all sacrificed to achieve. Ambassador Lyra Chen had represented humanity's interests within the Council for 15 years. Known to Bauer for her penetrating intellect and unwavering calm, she had earned respect even from species who initially viewed humans as impulsive primates, barely worthy of a seat at the table. What few outside her inner circle knew was that before donning the formal blue and silver robes of Earth's diplomatic corps, she had served as Strategic Operations Director for the United Earth Defense Force. Lyra understood both the promise of peace and the geometry of war. Humanity remains committed to the Concordat's principles, she had declared during her first address to the Council. We have buried our warships and transformed our military academies into centers for collaborative research. But never mistake our desire for peace as an inability to defend what we hold dear. Those words echoed now in the silence of her private quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch as she stared at the incoming transmission. The holographic display showed nothing but static, but the emergency beacon code told her everything she needed to know. Outpost Horizon, a scientific research facility established in the neutral Vega sector, had gone dark. Ambassador Chen, her aide Marcus Way, appeared at the doorway, his face ashen. Confirmation from Earth Central. Outpost Horizon has been destroyed. Initial scans show antimatter weaponry signatures. Estimated casualties, all 800 personnel. Lyra's expression remained unchanged, but her fingers tightened around the edge of her desk until her knuckles turned white. Survivors? None. Confirmed. The station's emergency pods were destroyed before they could launch. Who? The single word carried the weight of 800 souls. The attack bears all signatures of Vexari Dominion warships. 3 cruisers entered the sector, opened fire without warning, and departed immediately through a jump point. The Vexari Dominion. The most militaristic of the Concordat signatories, a hive-mind species whose concept of diplomacy had always seemed more like strategic patience than genuine desire for peace. For 2 centuries, they had adhered to the letter of the treaty while making no secret of their belief that their biological and technological superiority gave them the right to rule. The Dominion has already issued a statement, Marcus continued. They claim their vessels were conducting a training exercise and experienced a catastrophic navigation and weapon system malfunction. They've offered reparations, but deny intentional hostility. Lyra stood smoothing the front of her diplomatic uniform with practiced hands. Prepare the shuttle. We depart for the Council in 1 hour. Ambassador Earth Central is suggesting we await further intelligence before 800 scientists and support staff, Marcus. People who are cataloging stellar phenomena and developing medical applications for exotic minerals. The youngest was Dr. Kyoko Watanabe, 26 years old, brilliant xenobiologist with her whole life ahead of her. Lyra's voice remained level, but her eyes burned. We will not wait. Within 6 hours, Ambassador Chen stood before the assembled Galactic Council. The chamber, typically filled with the soft murmur of diplomatic discourse, had fallen into an uneasy silence. Esteemed representatives, she began, her voice clear and measured. Today I come before you not to demand war, but to seek justice. Outpost Horizon, a scientific installation operating under the explicit protection of the Neutral Zone Accords, has been destroyed by Vexari Dominion warships. 800 lives, researchers, engineers, medical staff, have been extinguished. The Vexari representative Archon Thexval rose from his seat. Nearly 3 meters tall with iridescent chitinous plating and 4 manipulator arms, he towered over the human ambassador. The Dominion regrets this unfortunate incident, the Archon's translator device projected in the common tongue. A series of system failures led to this tragedy. We have already initiated an internal investigation and offered appropriate compensation to your species. The matter is closed. Lyra didn't flinch as she looked up at the imposing figure. With respect, Archon, the matter is far from closed. We have recovered data buoys from Horizon's monitoring network. They show your vessels deliberately disabling the outpost's communication array before targeting its reactor core and defensive shields. Your ships then systematically destroyed all escape pods. A clear violation of war conduct protocols, let alone peace accords. A ripple of discomfort passed through the assembled delegates. The Vexari representative's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation recognized by everyone present. You overreach, Ambassador Chen, the Archon replied. One data buoy from a destroyed facility hardly constitutes evidence. If your species cannot accept the reality of technological failure, perhaps you are not as evolutionarily advanced as you pretend to be. The Council Arbiter, a member of the ancient Thracian species known for their absolute neutrality, raised a glowing staff. The Council acknowledges the gravity of these accusations. An investigation committee will be formed to, with respect, Arbiter. Lyra interrupted, something rarely done in Council proceedings. We have provided evidence of deliberate aggression against a civilian target. The concordat is clear. Such actions demand immediate sanction while investigations proceed. The chamber erupted in voices. The Vexari Dominion had powerful allies among the Council, species who depended on their advanced technology for trade and defense. The Arbiter struggled to restore order as accusations and defenses flew across the chamber. Finally, the representative from the Solari Collective, one of the oldest spacefaring civilizations, spoke. Perhaps the human ambassador misunderstands our processes. Evidence must be verified through proper channels. The Dominion has the right to present its own investigation. This will take time. Time, Lyra repeated, the word hanging in the air. I understand time very well, Representative. Humanity is young by your standards, but we have learned much about how time can be used to bury truth beneath procedure. She placed a small data crystal on the podium before her. This contains our full evidence package. Examine it carefully. We will await your response for one standard cycle. As she turned to leave, the Vexari Archon called after her. Your species has always been prone to emotional outbursts, Ambassador Chen. Remember your place in the galactic order before you make threats you cannot sustain. Lyra paused at the chamber door but didn't turn around. We make no threats, Archon. Humanity has committed fully to peace, but we have never forgotten how to secure justice. With that, she departed, leaving a chamber of whispers in her wake. 26 hours later, the Council reconvened. The investigation committee, composed of representatives from 5 neutral species, delivered their preliminary findings. While evidence suggests the Vexari vessels were present at Outpost Horizon during the incident, the committee had announced, we cannot conclusively determine intent. System malfunctions, while statistically unlikely in 3 separate vessels simultaneously, cannot be ruled out. We recommend continued investigation over a standard quarter cycle, with the Dominion providing full access to the vessels and personnel involved. Lyra stood once more before the Council. And what sanctions will be imposed during this investigation? The Arbiter shifted uncomfortably. The Council believes it would be premature to impose sanctions without conclusive determination of intent. A murmur ran through the chamber as Lyra nodded slowly. I see. 800 lives. Evidence of coordinated attack. And yet, procedure demands patience. Ambassador Chen, the Arbiter tried again. We understand your species' distress, but... You understand nothing, Lyra said quietly. Yet her voice carried to every corner of the chamber. Humanity joined this council believing in its principles. We dismantled our war fleets, converted our defense stations, shared our technologies. Openly. All because we believed that this body would stand for justice when justice was needed. She straightened, standing taller than her modest height would suggest possible. The Concordat contains a provision rarely invoked, Article 47. When a signatory has demonstrated clear hostile intent against another and the Council fails to act, the aggrieved party may withdraw from specific non-aggression clauses to pursue appropriate security measures. The chamber erupted again. Article 47 had been included as a safety valve, a recognition that no system of collective security could function if it allowed predatory behavior to hide behind procedure. But it had never been invoked in the Concordat's history. You would risk everything we have built? The Solari representative demanded. No, Lyra replied. The Vexari Dominion risked everything when they targeted our outpost. The Council risked everything when it chose procedure over justice. She produced a sealed document and placed it on the central dais. In accordance with Article 47, humanity hereby withdraws from Sections 12 through 16 of the Mutual Defense Prohibition for a period of 3 standard cycles or until justice for Outpost Horizon has been secured. The Vexari Archon's translator couldn't fully capture the mix of derision and threat in his response. You have no significant military forces, human. Your security services were dismantled decades ago. This gesture is empty. Lyra met the Archon's compound eyes directly. A common misunderstanding about humanity, Archon. We did not dismantle our capacity for war. We evolved beyond the need to display it. She turned to address the entire Council. I will return in 3 days to hear the Council's reconsidered position on this matter. With that, Ambassador Chen departed the Celestial Spire, leaving behind a chamber divided between concern and dismissal. Many believed humanity was simply posturing, a species feeling its weakness and lashing out with empty protocol. Others remembered older warnings about the deceptive nature of Earth's commitment to peace. As Lyra's shuttle departed, she opened a secure channel to Earth Central. Her message consisted of a single phrase: initiate protocol checkmate. Throughout human space, silent systems that had lain dormant for decades began to awaken. This was not the powering up of hidden warships or the activation of doomsday weapons. This was something the Vexari Dominion, for all their technological superiority, had never anticipated. Humanity had not prepared for war. They had prepared for something far more elegant, and in 3 days the galaxy would understand the difference. Diplomacy without words. 3 days passed like a held breath across the known galaxy. The Vexari Dominion made no secret of their dismissal of humanity's invocation of Article 47. Their diplomatic channels broadcast confidence verging on contempt, assuring their allies that Earth's response would amount to nothing more than formal protests and perhaps the recall of their ambassadors from Dominion space. After all, humanity had been visibly committed to peace for generations. Their shipyards produced research vessels and colony ships, not warcraft. What the Dominion failed to understand was that humanity had not forgotten war. They had transcended it. On the morning of the 3rd day, Ambassador Lyra Chen returned to the Celestial Spire. The Council chamber was filled beyond capacity, representatives from every signatory species present rather than just their designated counselors. The unprecedented invocation of Article 47 had sent ripples through galactic politics, with many species quietly reassessing their understanding of humanity's place in the cosmic order. Has the Council reached a decision regarding the attack on Outpost Horizon? Lyra asked without preamble, as she took her place at the speaking dais. The Arbiter rose, staff glowing softly in the chamber's light. Ambassador Chen, the Council has carefully considered your evidence and concerns. While we continue to investigate the circumstances surrounding the destruction of your outpost, we cannot at this time declare the incident an intentional act of aggression by the Vexari Dominion. The Council recommends that Earth accept the offered reparations and allow the investigation to proceed according to established protocols. Murmurs filled the chamber, some of approval, others of concern. The Vexari Archon made no effort to hide his satisfaction, his upper limbs performing the subtle gesture that members of his species recognized as dismissive triumph. Lyra nodded slowly. I expected nothing less. The Council has made its position clear, as has the Dominion. She paused, looking around the chamber. 3 days ago, I informed you that humanity was invoking Article 47. Today, I am here to inform you of the consequences of your inaction. She activated a small projector on her wrist. Above the central dais, a holographic display materialized, showing a Vexari command station in orbit around one of their core worlds. As the Council watched, the station's lights flickered and went dark. Emergency systems activated briefly before they too failed. The massive structure became a floating hulk against the backdrop of the planet below. What is the meaning of this? The Vexari Archon demanded, rising to his full height. That was Command Station Vexa 9, Lyra said calmly. 16 minutes ago, it experienced what your species might describe as a catastrophic system failure. No personnel have been harmed. The station has simply stopped functioning. Another image appeared, a Dominion shipyard complex. Like the command station before it, its systems were visibly failing, section by section, as if some invisible hand were methodically switching everything off. This is an act of war, the Archon roared, his translator barely keeping up with his rage. No, Lyra replied. This is protocol checkmate. When humanity joined the Concordat, we did not abandon our capacity for self-defense. We evolved it. For 50 years, while we built research outposts and terraforming colonies, we also seeded your systems with nanotechnology so advanced you never detected it. Not viruses or weapons, simply observers, waiting. More images appeared above. The dais, Dominion military installations, fleet coordination centers, weapons manufacturing facilities, all going dark. Not destroyed, simply rendered inert. Every piece of technology your military has acquired, developed, or traded for in the last 5 decades contains our observers, Lyra continued as the Council watched in stunned silence. They remained dormant until protocol checkmate was activated 3 days ago. They do not destroy, they simply disconnect. Your weapons cannot fire, your ships cannot navigate, your communications cannot transmit beyond their immediate vicinity. The chamber had fallen into complete silence. Not even whispers disturbed the collective shock that had descended upon the assembled representatives. This is impossible, the Vexari Archon said, but his voice had lost its edge of certainty. Our security protocols, our scanning technology, were looking for weapons, Lyra finished for him. For radiation signatures, explosive compounds, malicious code. But our observers are none of those things. They're simply watchers that can, when necessary, sever connections. Think of them as circuit breakers for aggression. The Solari representative found her voice first. Ambassador Chen, what you describe violates the spirit, if not the letter, of the Concordat's non-interference clauses. Perhaps, Lyra acknowledged, but we violated nothing until Article 47 was invoked, and only then in response to direct aggression. The observers have been programmed with strict ethical parameters. They target only military and government systems directly linked to the chain of command that authorized the attack on Horizon. Civilian infrastructure, medical facilities, environmental systems, all remain untouched. She turned back to the Vexari Archon. 800 lives, Archon. Scientists and researchers who posed no threat to you. We could have responded with traditional warfare. Instead, we chose to simply remove your ability to harm others while minimizing harm to your people. How long? The question came not from the Archon, but from the Medusan representative, a species known for their pragmatic approach to conflict. The effect is temporary, 72 hours by standard measurement, Lyra answered. Long enough to demonstrate our resolve, not long enough to cause lasting damage to the Dominion's infrastructure. When systems reactivate, complete operational, logs will be transmitted simultaneously to all Concordat signatories, showing exactly what commands were given regarding Outpost Horizon. The implications rippled through the chamber. Humanity had not just disabled the Dominion's military capacity, they had ensured that evidence of the attack would be impossible to hide. And if the logs show what you claim? The Arbiter asked, quietly. Then the Council can finally dispense justice based on facts rather than diplomatic convenience, Lyra replied. We seek no territorial concessions, no punitive measures beyond those prescribed by the Concordat for intentional violations. The Vexari Archon's posture had changed, the aggressive confidence replaced by something new. Not fear exactly, but a recalculation. You expect us to believe you've infiltrated our most secure systems without detection for decades? That you could have disabled our defenses at any time? Lyra's expression remained impassive. We don't expect you to believe anything, Archon. The evidence is currently displaying itself across your military infrastructure. Whether you choose to acknowledge, the truth is irrelevant to its existence. She turned back to address the full council. Humanity joined the Concordat because we believe peaceful coexistence is the only sustainable future for any sentient species. But peace cannot exist without justice, and justice without accountability is merely wishful thinking. A new image appeared above the dais, a complete schematic of the observer technology. As a gesture of good faith, I am providing full technical specifications of the observer systems to every Concordat signatory. You will find they cannot be weaponized. They cannot cause physical harm. They can only interrupt technological systems when activated by specific ethical trigger conditions. You would share this technology with everyone? The Medusan representative couldn't hide their surprise. Knowledge should not be a weapon, but a shield, Lyra replied. The observers can be detected now that you know what to look for. You can remove them from your systems if you wish. But consider this. Had similar technology been distributed equally among all signatories from the beginning, perhaps the Dominion would have thought twice before targeting Horizon. The council chamber erupted in voices as representatives debated the implications. Some called it an unconscionable violation of sovereignty. Others saw the elegant brilliance of a defensive system that caused no casualties. Through it all, Lyra stood calmly at the center, waiting for order to be restored. When the Arbiter finally managed to quiet the chamber, the Vexari Archon spoke. His tone had changed entirely, the translator now conveying something closer to grudging respect. The Dominion has underestimated humanity's resolve, he said, and perhaps its wisdom. When our systems reactivate and the logs are revealed, we will accept whatever judgment the Council delivers based on that evidence. Lyra inclined her head slightly. That is all we have ever asked for, Archon. 48 hours later, the evidence was undeniable. Command logs from multiple Vexari vessels confirmed deliberate orders to destroy Outpost Horizon, not from some rogue commander, but from the highest levels of the Dominion military structure. The attack had been planned as a test of humanity's response and the Council's willingness to enforce its own principles. They had miscalculated on both counts. The sanctions imposed on the Vexari Dominion were the most severe in the Concordat's history. Key military leaders were removed from power and turned over to the Council's Justice Ministry. Reparations were set at levels that would fund the construction of 3 new research outposts in Horizon's memory. And perhaps most significantly, observer technology, refined and standardized under Council supervision, became a universal peacekeeping tool distributed equally among all signatories. A month after the resolution, Ambassador Chen stood in Earth Central's Memorial Garden, looking at the newly installed monument to the Horizon victims. 800 names etched in luminescent crystal, a quiet testament to lives lost in pursuit of knowledge. They're calling it the Chen Doctrine, Marcus said as he joined her beside the memorial. Asymmetric defensive capacity without offensive capability. The application of minimum force for maximum ethical effect. Lyra traced her fingers over the name of young Dr. Watanabe. History is littered with doctrines named after individuals who found new ways to wage war. I hope this one is remembered for finding a way to secure peace without destruction. The Council has officially recognized humanity as having fulfilled its obligations under Article 47, Marcus continued. Our full diplomatic status has been restored. And... He hesitated. And, Lyra prompted. The Arbiter has nominated you for the position of Special Envoy for Ethical Defense Technologies. The nomination has received support from every signatory, including, rather surprisingly, the Vexari Dominion. Lyra raised an eyebrow. The universe continues to surprise. Will you accept? She was quiet for a long moment, still looking at the memorial. Humanity's greatest strength has never been our capacity for violence, she said finally. It's our ability to find alternatives to it, to remember the cost of conflict even as we prepare for its possibility. She turned away from the memorial, facing toward the stars visible through the garden's transparent dome. Yes, I'll accept, because the best memorial we can build for those 800 lives is a galaxy where such sacrifices are never needed again. As night fell over Earth, central, the memorial's crystal surface began to glow, each name shining like a star in the darkness. Above, actual stars glittered in the vacuum, millions of points of light connected by invisible threads of understanding that ran deeper than treaty language or diplomatic protocol. Humanity had not won a war. They had redefined victory itself. In the end, it wasn't superior firepower or tactical brilliance that had changed the galactic order. It was the simple recognition that true security cannot be built on the threat of destruction, but on systems that make destruction impossible. The universe had learned what humanity had known all along. The most powerful weapons are the ones you never have to use.